All right, guys, we're back on location for another macro cycle update. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, the stock markets, and interest rates as well. We've seen something for the first time this year. I'll get into that in just a moment. If you are enjoying the no-nonsense titles and thumbnails and of course analysis, let me know. Hit that like button, the easiest way to let me know your thoughts nice and quick. All right, let's crack on. Probably want to cover Bitcoin first up, and I want to discuss the timeframes now when it comes to reaching a new all-time high. There was a couple of comments yesterday, people are referencing Bitcoin price and the all-time high based on where it was at the halving, and then also now that it's hit an all-time high, how much longer that's going to take to get to another new all-time high. And from what I can see, the consensus is it should happen soon. Obviously, we've seen Bitcoin down now in the last 24 hours. It got rejected at another 50% level as we've been watching. It just keeps trying to climb and get rejected. So it keeps hitting those levels and coming back down. Overall, my position has not changed when it comes to the macro. I'm still macro bullish, but I think this is the wave 4 that we've been waiting for. And where that low comes in is something I want to discuss in just a moment. So with the current position of Bitcoin, where it's been down now from the all-time high for about 45 days. This is the lowest close it's had since the 27th of February, so about 63 days. What we've seen from Bitcoin in the past, sorry, the sun's getting a bit bright here, but anyway, you want to listen to me, not look at me. What we've seen from Bitcoin in the past is 60 days down. That was in 2023. We saw it twice, from those peaks from 30K down to 25K. So it happened twice, right? Now, other people tend to think that because Bitcoin reached a new all-time high, what's happened in the past is it only took a few weeks for Bitcoin to get back to another new all-time high. And that obviously is not the case. It's not my opinion, it's just what's happened. It's been 48 days now since the previous all-time high on the 14th of March, and I don't think it's going to happen in the next week or two. So that would then lead us to about 60 days. So that could bring us out to mid-May, as we are now the 1st of May, and that could be 60 days down, right? It still needs to climb back to a new all-time high. That's only just looking at it from the current perspective. So that's the first thing. All-time high prices, Bitcoin has hit those before. 2020, okay, hit a new all-time high. Only took a couple of weeks and then it took off again. So people were sort of referencing that. In 2016 or early 2017, it hit a new all-time high. It took a few more weeks, about a month or two, and then it hit a new all-time high again. We're now into that 2-month period, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. When I say soon, the week or two to get to that sort of 60 days. So that's the all-time highs. Now with the halving, similar sort of thing. It's got to a halving point. People think it just sort of takes a few weeks and then it sort of blasts off again. We've looked at this when it comes to the data itself and the swings on the chart, the months, consecutive months in the green and consecutive months in a row, right? From lows to highs. September was the low, March was the top, sort of 6 to 7 months there when you count it out in the days. And we were anticipating a pause or a correction. Now, I don't think it's going to be a major correction, but there's obviously been a correction. We're at 20% now, so it's similar to what we've seen in the past year for Bitcoin, 20% corrections, 22%. Okay, so I've covered in terms of timeframes with the all-time high and how I don't think it's going to happen like last time, 2020 or 2016. That doesn't mean that this time is different. I think you just got to follow the patterns of technical analysis, not what influencers reference when it comes to has to be this all-time high, has to be that all-time high in terms of timeframes, right? What we've seen with patterns is the number of green months in a row. Sort of an easy way to look at it is if you can take rules from any technical analysis rules and then apply them to different markets, and there is some sort of and they work in other markets, then those rules stack up to the test of time. That's just an oversimplified understanding or meaning of TA and the rules, right? But if you pull something from the halving and say that it happened this time on the halving, therefore it must happen the next time, you can't apply that to any other market because no other markets have halvings and everyone knows about the halving, so it's going to change over time, right? So that's in terms of where we are with how the market is moving from the lows, how it's been corrected and now it's trying to find a bottom. So what we looked at were those months up. We've looked at the 3 days down signal. That also suggested that we could be below the all-time high for longer than last time. We've looked at 3 red weeks. It's what Michael had come up with on his channel. That's also occurred. And so far, everything seems to be playing ball to those signals, suggesting that we're going to see longer time underneath this all-time high than what we have done in the past. When does that happen? All right, well, for the stock market, we're watching out for a bottom in May. And then if we happen to get that rally and it comes back down again, then we'll look out for something roughly around June, July, because it's happened before and we're looking at cycles. But I'll update that on the channel because it'd be better just to look at some graphs on that. But essentially, if you can just remember that, we're looking out for some sort of low this month and we'll see how everything reacts. What else is going on is that US dollar is finding some strength again. So it's probably going to be a bit difficult for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to go up while the US dollar is finding a little bit more strength yet again. So we're going to keep that in the backs of our mind. So we've looked at Bitcoin, we've looked at the time frames to a potential low. We're watching out for something in May, which then means it's got to climb back to a new all-time high. So it could be 2 months down, a month or two up, which would then put us at around 3-4 months until it reaches a new all-time high, which could mean a new all-time high in the second half of 2024. I think at this rate, we've got 2 months to go for the first half. Probably seems unlikely that Bitcoin would reach a new all-time high in this half of 2024. Yeah, maybe it happens late June. We'll wait and see, right? There's plenty of time to go. But in terms of where it's coming down to, it's getting to a better risk-reward area than obviously the last 6 weeks. Last 6 weeks was at an all-time high. So what does that mean? Essentially, we've seen it come back 20%. It's done that before. Could it go further? Yes. We've got a 50% level coming in at $56,000. That would be 24% from the all-time high. If these numbers are running a little bit quick, let me know. Keep watching the channel, hit the subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. I didn't mention that at the beginning, so make sure you do that. Enjoying these videos out on location here. Beautiful cloudy day today, but it's still damn hot. Okay, so that's 24% down would be 56K, and then down to sort of 51, 52, 53K, that would take you down to a 30% drop from the all-time high. So still within a healthy correction. It would just take longer to get back to the old all-time high. That's how these things work. So overall, I'm looking for a bottom coming in the first half of 2024, and then work our way out of that low. After that, could be June, because we might see a bottom in May, and then it'll start to work its way out of that low. Not saying a new all-time high, but I expect a new all-time high probably in 2024. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at in that case. For altcoins, we're obviously still seeing many of them bleed out, and that's the death of crypto. Some people got a little bit triggered by the death of crypto, but that is what happens. That's the feelings. The feeling is that crypto is dying, which is why it's dropping slowly, then fast, and then slowly again, and then quickly just takes it out. You know, it's just like a quick stab and the show's over. You know, death by 1,000 cuts, and then, I don't know, one final stab to finish it off. That's a lot of altcoins. So yeah, that's the death of crypto. If you don't like the saying, all right, I get it. We're probably going to run out of words here for titles, but that's the end of that's the game here, right? So in this stage for altcoins, as I've said, some of them look like they're putting in higher lows, but it's potentially few and far between, and that's because you're not going to see all of them be strong towards the next half of the cycle. There's going to be other things that pop up. There's probably going to be new meme coins. There's probably going to be new AI. A couple of narratives of obviously the Bitcoin narrative there of, what are they? Real world assets, so RWA. That's not the Bitcoin narrative, but RWAs. Bitcoin layer 2 coming up. Lots of those things. So anything that's been strong through this pump might not do as well in the next pump. I suggested that last year when Injective was taking off, and it looks like Injective is really struggling to hold here. Not saying that it's not going to make any gains, but it might not be the same sort of gains as the next latest meme coin on Bitcoin that's a friggin' AI real world asset, whatever, right? That's the thing. So that's what I'll be looking out for, and I think that sort of timing comes sometime in the second half of 2024, even though I've talked about potential lows forming for altcoins. When I say that, it's keep an eye on the strong stuff. Don't go all in now. I've never ever said go all in on anything, because you just don't know where the low is. Personally, I like to wait for confirmation and a push to the upside. Others don't like that, and they rather DCA and all the way down. Horses for courses, whatever it is. So that's altcoins. I still think there's plenty of potential because of this next wave up, which leads me to why there's a next leg up, and that would be the macro markets, or the traditional markets on a macro cycle. And for the stock markets, obviously they've been hit the last few weeks, coming down, having a correction finally after such a mega move up of 5 months. Don't forget, that was out of October's low last year. And from this point forward, we've seen the 3 weeks down, so same sort of rule applied on the stock markets, and potentially might see them come back to test these lows that they've put in over the last couple of weeks, which could then be a reasonable DCAing opportunity. They're down 5, 6, 7% from their highs, S&P, NASDAQ, that sort of thing. But again, you want to be choosing the stronger stocks. Something, you look at this chart of Tesla, absolute trash. Look at Tesla. I know that offends a lot of people. You don't know about the fundamentals and what's coming up and blah, blah, blah. The chart tells you everything you need to know, because if those fundamentalists are buying, their buying activity is going to show up in the chart. And Tesla has been a terrible purchase for the last couple of years, okay? 2021, I think, was the top from memory, and it's been down ever since. It's had some big bounces, but that looks like the markings of some sort of distribution. We'll wait and see. It can go from 140 to 200 and anything in between, right? But it hasn't been breaking any other highs. So keep that in mind if you are looking to get into any sort of stocks. So stock markets overall, I think, are going to do pretty well, but the odd stock may not, as I've pointed out with Tesla. Now on to interest rates. And the thing we've seen for the first time for a long time is more pauses in 2024. And for the first time, we've now only got the probability of one rate cut in 2024. Going back to January 2024, it was looking like there was going to be a cut at every single meeting. So that's 8 meetings. It did not happen. We talked about that in January on X, and you could see why, because the trade was crowded. Now, I'm using that terminology of Jason Shapiro. I did that interview with him on the weekend. Absolutely fantastic interview. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on the channel, only a couple of videos back. But it's just learning about how these markets work so that you can do better next time. So the idea about the crowded market, it's a crowded trade, is that you don't want to be on the same side as the crowd. And right now, we're starting to see a shift towards more of the crowd expecting a pause in interest rates and maybe going to a cut. Maybe one cut, maybe one hike. So we're not sure yet. And what I learned from that interview is your trades can go from you having the edge, absolute golden edge, then to becoming neutral. So when I say our, Michael and I and our members at TIA, our absolute edge was at the bottoms for Bitcoin. Everyone thought it was going lower. You remember all those professional, verified, invested traders and all this BS talking about Bitcoin going to 9 grand and 12 grand and this grand, and then shorting it all the way up, which they guaranteed were not shorting it on the way up. You just can't last in a trade that long. And then the rest of them who were all talking about Wyckoff distribution again, and it was going to collapse, and it just went on and on and on. The trade was so crowded to the downside throughout late 22 and early 23 that it just seemed like a no-brainer to be buying when 90% of people thought it was going to go down. And then obviously here we are. Whereas now, that was something that I learned to where we are with Bitcoin. It seems like we're in the sort of neutral territory. Yeah, it's going to correct, but the biggest gains were earlier. And we'll have to get to a point where most will think it would be short, and then you look to buy or go long because the crowd would think it's going to go shorter there, like it's going to go down, so therefore there's going to be more shorts. So anyway, I'm talking about interest rates. we got to Bitcoin. Talking about interest rates, it seems like the crowd is sort of feeling like it's going to be on pause, maybe a cut, maybe a hike. They're not sure yet. So eventually this is probably going to turn, as I talked about with Jason Shapiro, that when the crowd thinks it's going to hike or pause for too long, maybe we'll get this one hike. Maybe it comes out of nowhere and we get a cut. So I think he's right in that sense, that we might have to start pivoting on that idea. I don't know when, but for now it seems all right. It'll be in the future. When everyone thinks, oh, it has to go up from this point, then we might get to a point where we have to cut. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. It's not going to affect us too much at this stage. And things are as they are, as we've seen them in the market. So overall, recap, Bitcoin, cryptos, stock markets, everything seems like it's on track in terms of the cycle. I guess the main thing here with Bitcoin and the timing is we're looking at that low coming in probably in the first half of 2024, and then we'll see how the market starts to climb out of that. And probably what I would like to see at that low is that there's going to be heaps of negativity. I don't know if we're going to get it because of how high we are in the market already, but if there was a ton of negativity, why Bitcoin is not going to make it this time because the ETFs are out, because the halving's done, because whatever else, everything is done and the stock market's down, then that might be a reasonable time to be getting into the market there. If you can mix your market sentiment with your news and your fundamentals and your TA, it's going to be a nice little mixture there to understand that it could be looking like a low coming in. Smash up the like button. I'll be back in the office again. I hope you've enjoyed the another outdoor entertainment here with the beautiful Burley Heads. The surf was great if you asked. Had a fantastic time. Yeah, I'll be back in the next one. Let me know you like this stuff and you like the outdoors, and I'll see you back in the next one. Cheers, guys. Peace out.